Rafael Nadal, 912 consecutive weeks in the ATP Top 10. Staying in the ATP Top 10 for a full season is tough. Doing it for 5 years is rare. But doing it for 912 consecutive weeks? That's 18 straight years. And only one player in history has done that, Rafael Nadal. From April 25th, 2005 to March 20th, 2023, Nadal never dropped out of the ATP Top 10. Not once. Across 3 generations of players, constant injuries, and changes in surface speeds, balls, and formats, he has stayed. Always in the mix. Always among the very best. This is a level of consistency we haven't seen before, and it's unlikely we'll see again. Now, just to put that into perspective, Roger Federer held the top 10 spot for 734 straight weeks. Djokovic's longest unbroken run is 555. Both are legendary. Both are historical. But Nadal's 912? It's in a category of its own. What makes this streak even more ridiculous is the fact that Nadal's playing style isn't exactly longevity friendly. His game is high impact, physical, and demanding. He has had major injuries in nearly every season. Knees, wrists, abs, foot, back, you name it. And yet somehow, no injury, no absence, and no generational shift pushed him out of the top 10. Not even once. He didn't just hang around either. In that same time span, he won 22 Grand Slam titles, finished 5 seasons as year-end number 1, and won at least 1 slam in 15 different seasons. In 2015, a season many consider one of his worst, he still ended the year ranked number 5. This wasn't luck. It wasn't protection from the ATP. It was a consistent performance at the highest level, year after year. Even in years he missed big events like Wimbledon or the US Open, he earned enough points from fewer tournaments to stay comfortably inside the top 10. The streak finally ended in March 2023, when he dropped out due to inactivity from injury. And let's be honest, 912 weeks is a record that will likely never be matched. Players are peaking earlier, careers are shorter, and competition is deeper. So next time you hear someone say Nadal is only dominant on clay, remind them of this. 18 straight years as a top 10 player, across all surfaces, all eras, all odds. Martina Navratilova, 354 combined career titles. Some tennis records feel untouchable, and there's Martina Navratilova's 354 career titles. That number sounds made up, but it's real, and no other player, man or woman, comes close. Navratilova won 167 singles titles, the most in WTA history. She added 177 doubles titles, again, the most. And just for good measure, she tossed in 10 Grand Slam mixed doubles titles. When you add that up, you get 354 titles across all formats. To understand how absurd that is, the next closest player is Chris Evert, with 157 singles titles and 32 doubles, 189 combined. For the men, John McEnroe leads with 155 total. Martina is more than 100 titles ahead of either of them. This isn't just a record, it's a canyon. And it's not just quantity, the quality is elite. Martina won 59 Grand Slam titles, 18 in singles, 31 in doubles, and 10 in mixed. She's the only player in history to have won every slam in every discipline, singles, doubles, and mixed. Not once, not twice, but across 3 decades, from 1974 to 2006. Her longevity is off the charts. She won her first slam, the French Open mixed doubles, in 1974, and her last at the US Open mixed doubles in 2006 at age 49. That's 32 years between her first and last slam title. Navratilova's 1983 season is legendary on its own. She went 86-1, the best winning percentage ever in a single season, 98.85%. That's not a typo. It's basically flawless. She also holds the record for the most singles wins at any Grand Slam, 120 match wins at Wimbledon alone. And speaking of Wimbledon, she won 9 singles titles there, including 6 in a row from 1982 to 1987. And if you're thinking she was only good in singles or doubles, you'd be wrong. She's the only player to be ranked world number 1 in both singles and doubles for more than 200 weeks each. That balance is quite unmatched. So when the GOAT debates come up, and the conversation leans toward the usual names, remember this: 354 titles, 59 slams, 32 years of dominance. Jimmy Connors, 109 ATP singles titles. Some players peak for a few seasons, but Jimmy Connors, he stayed at the top for 15 straight years. From 1973 to 1988, Connors didn't just float around the rankings, he was a permanent fixture in the ATP Top 10. That's over 780 consecutive weeks as one of the world's best, in an era without sports science, cryotherapy, or fancy recovery gear. Just raw grit, repetition, and the occasional ice pack. But it's his 109th ATP singles titles that really make jaws drop. That's the most by any male player in the Open era, and honestly, it might never be broken. Roger Federer, the closest of the modern legends, retired with 103. What about Nadal? He had 92. And Djokovic? He's still chasing. But Connors' 109 remains untouched. So how did he do it? Connors was relentless. His game wasn't built on elegance. It was built on intensity. He hit flat, early, and with purpose. His two-handed backhand? They were revolutionary at the time. And his attitude on court? Feisty, confrontational, and electric. He brought fire to tennis before it was cool. He was a fighter, not a flair player. That mindset carried him through more than 1,500 matches, and he won over 1,200 of them, another record that stood for decades. He didn't just play often, he played to win, week in, week out, year after year. And get this, Connors won at least one title a year for 16 straight seasons. That's the kind of consistency that turns a great player into a historical icon. He won majors, of course, 8 Grand Slam singles titles. But what defined Connors was the sheer volume of wins. Even when younger stars like Bjorn Borg and John McEnroe entered the scene, Connors didn't fade. He adapted. He scrapped. He stuck around. In 1991, at 39 years old, he made a fairy tale run to the US Open semifinals, cementing his place in tennis lore. In a sport where players often burn out, Connors burned brighter, longer, and louder. Martina Hingis, youngest Grand Slam champion. In 1997, while most teenagers were trying to survive high school, Martina Hingis was busy making tennis history. At just 16 years and 3 months, she won the Australian Open, becoming the youngest Grand Slam singles champion in the Open era. That's not a youngest in the last 10 years type record. It's the youngest ever. Full stop. But her story doesn't start there. The year before, she was already making noise, reaching the semifinals of the US Open at just 15. She wasn't just a rising star, she was a full-fledged contender. By the time she landed in Melbourne for the '97 Australian Open, she was already ranked inside the top 5 in the world. And then, she cruised. Hingis didn't drop a single set on her way to the title. Not one. She played like a seasoned pro, not someone still too young to drive in some countries. What made her so good so young? Hingis had a tennis IQ far beyond her years. She wasn't overpowering opponents with raw strength. She was outthinking them. Her game was built on touch, anticipation, and flawless timing. She read the court like a book and wrote her own script with each match. And she didn't stop at Melbourne. A few months later, Hingis became the youngest ever world number 1. Then came Wimbledon. Then the US Open. She ended 1997 with 3 Grand Slam titles and a 37-match win streak. At 17, she had achieved what most pros only dream about. Sure, physical setbacks later slowed her singles career, but that doesn't erase the record or the impact. No one has come close to breaking that 16-year-old Grand Slam barrier in the decades since. It's not just unbreakable because of difficulty. It's unbreakable because the game has changed. The physical demands, the strength of the field, and the length of development today make another Hingis-style breakout nearly impossible. Steffi Graf, 377 weeks as world number 1. When it comes to dominance in tennis, Steffi Graf's numbers speak for themselves. Her most iconic statistic? A total of 377 weeks as world number 1, the most by any player, male or female, in the history of the sport. That's over 7 years at the top. Not on and off, not rising and falling, but sustained excellence. She first climbed to number 1 in 1987, and by the time she left the sport in 1999, she had rewritten the record books. Graf's most famous season came in 1988, still the only time any player has completed the Golden Slam, winning the Australian Open, French Open, Wimbledon, and US Open, along with the Olympic gold medal in Seoul, all in the same calendar year. It wasn't a lucky run, it was methodical. She beat Chris Evert to start the year in Melbourne, dominated Roland Garros, overpowered Martina Navratilova at Wimbledon, then held off Gabriela Sabatini in the US Open final. A few weeks later, she beat Sabatini again in the Olympic final to complete the set. This wasn't a fluke season. Graf defended titles, adapted to surface changes, and handled a deep pool of elite challengers with precision. Her backhand was one of the most feared weapons in tennis history, but it was her movement and mental discipline that made her a week-in, week-out threat. Even in 2021, when Djokovic won the first 3 slams and made it to the Olympic semifinal, the full Golden Slam remained out of reach. The demands of the modern tour make a repeat unlikely, and yet Graf's excellence went far beyond that one season. Between 1987 and 1991, she reached the final in 13 straight Grand Slams. She won 22 major titles overall. She was number 1 at the end of 8 separate years. In 1988, Steffi Graf made history by winning all 4 Grand Slam titles and Olympic gold. She is the only player ever to achieve the Golden Slam. But while that season gets the most attention, it's her 377 weeks as world number 1 that truly define her legacy. If there's one record that proves long-term dominance, this is it. Roger Federer, 23 consecutive Grand Slam semifinals. Tennis is a sport built on form, momentum, small margins. Even the best players lose early sometimes. But from Wimbledon 2004 to the 2010 Australian Open, Roger Federer simply refused to exit before the Final Four. For 23 consecutive Grand Slam tournaments, the Swiss icon reached at least the semifinal stage. That's nearly 6 straight years of playing deep into every single slam. No injuries, no off days, no surprise exits, just elite level tennis on every surface, in every season. From grass to clay to hard courts, Federer was always in the mix, never missing a beat. The streak ended at Roland Garros 2010 when Robin Soderling stunned Federer in the quarterfinals. But even after that, the consistency didn't suddenly disappear. Federer went on to reach 36 consecutive Grand Slam quarterfinals, a record that also stands as the longest of its kind in men's tennis. To put that in perspective, the closest anyone has come on the men's side is Novak Djokovic with 28. On the women's side, Chris Evert reached 34 Slam semifinals, but those were not back-to-back. Her total came across 48 major appearances, with some gaps in between. Martina Navratilova is next behind Federer in consecutive Slam semis with 19. The Federer streak also included 18 Grand Slam finals, 14 titles, and numerous 5-set classics. What makes this even more remarkable is that Federer's opponents during that time included rising stars like Nadal, veterans like Agassi, and new generation threats like Djokovic. Yet, Federer stayed a step ahead, tournament after tournament. This wasn't a passive run either. Federer wasn't just sneaking into the semis. He was dominating early rounds, often dismantling opponents in straight sets. His serve, forehand, and trademark fluid movement made him incredibly hard to break down, especially in best-of-5 matches. Consistency of this kind is rare, not just in tennis, but in sport. Injuries, form dips, or one red-hot opponent can end a run overnight. But Federer stayed mentally and physically dialed in, slam after slam, season after season. And while many records have since been broken, Federer's semifinal streak still stands tall, an unmatched example of long-term excellence at the highest level. Venus Williams, oldest woman to win a major match. Longevity in tennis is rare. Sustained competitiveness, even rarer. Yet Venus Williams has managed both across 3 different decades. In 1997, the same season a teenage Martina Hingis dominated, Venus Williams made her breakthrough. She reached the US Open final at just 17, defeating top players before Hingis stopped her in New York. It was only her second Grand Slam main draw appearance. Her first had come a few months earlier, at Roland Garros, aged just 16. Fast forward to 2023, and Venus was still out there, still fighting. At age 43, she returned to the US Open, marking her 93rd main draw appearance at a Grand Slam, the most in the Open era. That's over 26 years since her first match at a major. The closest players behind her? Serena Williams, Roger Federer, and Feliciano Lopez, all tied at 81. Her 2023 first-round opponent was Greet Minnen, who wasn't even born when Venus made her slam debut. The match highlighted the staggering generational gap Venus had bridged, not just in years, but in styles, technology, and eras of tennis. Earlier in her 40s, Venus had already set the record as the oldest woman to win a singles match at a major. At Wimbledon 2021, aged 41, she defeated Mihaela Buzărnescu in a dramatic 3-setter. That victory pushed her past legends like Martina Navratilova and Serena, who had previously held similar longevity records. Beyond just showing up, Venus continued to earn wildcards on merit and fitness, not nostalgia. Her ground strokes remained powerful, her movement still sharp for her age, and her serve, always a weapon, continued to trouble opponents half her age. Her impact extends well beyond statistics. Venus's longevity sets a benchmark for professionalism, discipline, and resilience. She's not just the oldest to win a major match, she's the standard for how long a player can stay relevant at the top level. From teenage finalist in 1997 to slam record setter in her 40s, Venus has rewritten the aging curve in women's tennis. Chris Evert, 40, 8 consecutive Grand Slam quarterfinal wins. In conversations about unbreakable tennis records, names like Nadal, Federer, and Serena often dominate. But Chris Evert quietly holds a record that sits in a category of its own, 48 consecutive Grand Slam quarterfinal victories to start her career. Let that settle. She played her first 48 major quarterfinals and won every single one. This streak is not just a show of consistency, it's an unmatched level of reliability on the sport's biggest stages. Evert didn't just show up, she delivered every time, deep into tournaments. Quarterfinal after quarterfinal, she came through. In total, she reached 52 Grand Slam semifinals out of the 56 she ever contested. That's not a mistake. 52 semis in 56 attempts. Let's put that into context. Roger Federer, with over 80 Grand Slam appearances, reached 46. Serena, 40. Djokovic, 49 as of mid-2024. Evert's ratio remains untouchable. It wasn't about power or intimidation. Her game was built on consistency, tactical precision, and an unshakable mentality. Evert wasn't flashy, but she was relentless, a baseline machine with mental steel. From her debut at the 1971 US Open to her retirement in 1989, Evert's game aged with grace. She won 18 Grand Slam titles, spread evenly across surfaces. 7 French Opens, 6 US Opens, 3 Wimbledons, and 2 Australian Opens. She thrived in every era she played through, from wooden rackets to the rise of power tennis in the late 80s. Her Grand Slam quarterfinal win streak is a statistical marvel, not just because of the number, but because of what it represents. Unmatched mental durability, supreme court awareness, and a game built for every condition. Think about the odds. Injuries, off days, bad matchups. Evert endured all that and still won every quarterfinal she played for over a decade. It's not just unlikely to be broken, it might be impossible. While the Big Eight have pushed each other to greatness and inspired today's era of records, Evert's dominance was done in an era of fewer slams, fewer sports science advantages, and no Hawkeye. Just pure tennis IQ and discipline. And that concludes our list. 8 remarkable records. Some might be matched, a few may fall, but others, like Evert's quarterfinal streak, could remain untouched forever. Margaret Court, 24 Grand Slam titles. Before the era of power baseline rallies and high-definition replays, Margaret Court had already written her name deep into tennis history. With 24 Grand Slam singles titles, she holds the record for the most majors won by any player, male or female, in tennis history. Serena Williams retired with 23 slams. Novak Djokovic, the men's record holder, sits at 24 as of 2024. But Court got there first, and she did it across two eras, the amateur period and the open era. Her dominance wasn't a flash in the pan or confined to one surface. She won at least 3 titles at each of the 4 majors. That's the versatility most players only dream about. Her standout season came in 1970, when she completed the calendar year Grand Slam, winning the Australian Open, French Open, Wimbledon, and US Open in the same year. She became only the second woman in history to do it, after Maureen Connolly. But perhaps what's most striking about Court's record is her sheer consistency. She won her 24 majors across a 13-year span, from her first in 1960 to her last in 1973. During that stretch, she reached 29 Grand Slam finals, winning all but 5. That means in Grand Slam finals, Court had a better than 80% win rate. Even today, her name still sparks debate. Some question the strength of the fields she competed in during parts of her career. Others point out that 13 of her titles came before the Open era began in 1968. But what's beyond dispute is this: Court's numbers are historic, and no one has surpassed her yet. So what do you think? Which record is the hardest to break? Let us know in the comments, and if you haven't yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and until next time.